in the United States are either telecommuters or home-based workers.
Now, as a business, you need to find out if an alternative workplace is right for your company. And you can do that by knowing what types of alternative workplaces there are. Is your company right for an alternative workplace? The economics of an alternative workplace and the implementation of an alternative workplace. All right, now you're probably wondering, Logan, what is an alternative workplace? I'm going to tell you. A workplace is like a cubicle. Like you go into work every single day and you have your little station and you're working at your station. But an alternative workplace is to promote creativity in the workplace. And so you can do that with a 6-person workstation, which is where instead of just one cubicle, you have 6 people working at one station using all the same equipment, and it's good for people to bounce ideas off of each other. Also, another kind is an open plan space. So instead of like any stations, the floor is open, so people can converse with each other and floors, and they work in teams in each building. Now the next type is a hotel kind of workplace. If you're studying abroad, or if you need a place to go you're not at your normal workplace, you can go to these hotel workplaces. And they've got stations set up that you can go to that already have the things necessary for you to do your work. And the next type is actually a satellite office, and that's probably what most of your parents work at if you live in a suburban area. And it's where it's kind of an outfitted company for where it's like in the suburbs instead of in the city, and it's a big place where your parents probably work. And then the last, most of you have probably heard of, is telecommuting. You can actually work on your work from home. You don't have to go in. You can be in your pajamas. You can do whatever you want, and it's just uploaded right to the company website. And this is a picture of a satellite office. It's just a big building where your parents go into work, and then they can relay the information. This is an open plan space. The next picture will be just kind of the regular cubicle, just sitting on a nice little ball. And this is the hotel where you can go and it's all set up for you, and you can go and be at your workstation and work whenever you need to.
So, alternative workplaces don't work for every single company. There are key characteristics that your organization needs to have. The first one being your company needs to be committed to new ways of operating. They need to be open to change, open to new ideas. The next, you need to be an informational company rather than industrial, and I refer to this with the management philosophy. So informational is information age literate, like a lot of voice communication, data communication, and then industrial refers to intensive face-to-face interactions. So if you are an industrial company, then the alternative workplace isn't for you. Next, you need to have an open culture with proactive managers. That includes being dynamic, not hierarchical, technologically advanced, and managers need to be open to change. Your organization also needs to have clear links between staff, functions, and time. So they need to have open work plans, open to change. The company also needs to be prepared for pushback. A lot of 20-something-year-olds who are just starting in a company would be open to alternative workplaces, but people that have been working at the company for a long time may not necessarily be open to change. So people need to be open to the ability to adjust to a new setting. Your company also needs to be able to overcome external barriers. These external barriers include physical barriers and logistical barriers. This might be that people might not have space in their home for telecommunication. You also need to invest in the initiatives to make the company work. This includes full set of tools, relevant training, and full administrative support. So if your company or organization has all of these, then you need to think about the next step, which is the economics of implementing an alternative workplace.
So when you're looking at the economic effects of alternative workplaces, you need to look at it from 3 perspectives: the company's perspective, the customer's perspective, and the employee's perspective. And so you also need to weigh the tangible and intangible costs against the benefits. Tangible costs are going to include hardware, software, training, and equipment, while the intangible costs include the time it takes to set up new work habits and to learn new methods of communicating. So the benefits are going to include increased productivity and increased retention from your employees. And in one study, it showed that eliminating a 50-minute commute every day led to the equivalent of a 5-week increase in productivity per calendar year. And also, as telecommuting costs are falling and real estate and transportation costs are rising, it's making increasingly more and more sense to invest in alternative workplaces economically.
So with the initiative of setting up an alternative workplace, there are several steps you need to take to ensure that this is possible for one, but also that you have a smooth execution of the project. So what you want to start with is like a pilot project, a small group within your business that will follow through with this starting plan. So you don't want to overcomplicate it, you want to keep it simple. The next step is to segment your workforce and review the logistics of it. Obviously, as I said before, you can't start with taking your whole company and just trying to implement an alternate workplace. You need to look at the logistical details behind it and create the smaller groups and follow through with that. And then obviously you'll find out if it can work or not within the smaller group, and you can expand your program. And then you really just need to train for the culture of an alternative workplace as well as the technique, because they're all organized differently. From the standard business structure that you might see, where you can visualize several hundred workers just in cubicles in a building, they have to be trained to work within this different setting. And then there's also the performance objectives for both employees and their bosses. The bosses need to enforce these objectives for the employees, and the employees need to have them known from the beginning, and they need to follow them. Because if you don't have a clear set of guidelines, then you could have 10 different people operating in 10 different ways, and if you're trying to mix that all together and make a business function, you're going to have a lot of miscommunication and errors. You also need to educate the consumers and stakeholders. Your investors need to be aware of what you are doing. If they do not know what you're doing, then they might be concerned and they might not want to invest in the company. You have to be confident in your plan. You have to show them that you do indeed have a plan, and they will likely follow. And then you just need to observe how your employees balance their work and home lives. If you do the commuting and you work from home, then it's an entirely different setting than working in an office building. One of my uncles, for instance, he works from home, and he's got 2 younger kids who just want to play video games on his computer, so he had to learn to balance this setting with his real work environment.
Now, with all this information that you've gotten from our slides, you may be thinking, an alternative workplace is right for me. But keep in mind the different types of alternative workplaces that there are, so you know which one you need to implement, and there are multiple that you can implement. Also, you've probably discovered if your company is right for an alternative workplace or not, and you need to take into account the economics and the implementation of an alternative workplace if you've decided that it is right for you.
So while only 30 to 40 million people in the United States are telecommuters or home-based workers, the number is rapidly growing.
Thank you very much.